Yeah.
Boom. Oh, you're on. It just happened.
All happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voxology Podcast. If you don't recognize the third voice, it is the voice of my son, Nate. Big Nate, home from college.
Yep.
We were, we were dropping in ratings, so we needed Big Nate to come in and increase our listenership, particularly in the 18 to 26-year-old demographic. That's right. So, well done.
I have one thing to say. You're welcome.
There it is.
That's what you said last time.
Yep.
Big Nate, home from college.
Yes.
And surprised us. He said he was going to come home on a Friday, but he surprised us by coming home on a Thursday night.
Yep.
There may have been some yelling, some running, some hugging.
I'm like that.
It was really fun. Seth Erie kind of went berserk this morning. The amount of time Nate was just jumped on, just randomly, in the half hour between we woke him up and his bus came was pretty remarkable. I would say the ratio was about, for every 3 minutes, there was one tackling.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
amazing.
know. I'd say about 2 minutes. He also said that he wanted me to be a part of his morning routine.
Routine.
Not routine. And I thought that was the funniest thing.
Yeah,
We're building a
routine.
whole
also-
Seth dictionary, and we'll have to add that to
Yeah.
it too.
He said hibachi this morning.
Yeah, he struggles with hibachi. It takes him a while to get the H going, but then he gets the rest of it out pretty well. That's what he wants for his birthday dinner is hibachi. But anyway, we need to do a shout out because we have found one of our dear listeners.
Yes.
So Nate, take it away, buddy. Where do you go to college?
So I go to school at Wright State, Raider Up.
Raider up,
Yep.
Wright State Raiders.
For all of the Wright State people out there.
There's one.
There's two that listen. One of them's me, and I don't even listen that much.
I was gonna say.
I only listen to the ones I'm on.
Exactly.
First of all,
exactly.
and that's like 2 minutes, but it's 2 minutes of greatness.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's another guy.
His
name's-
people want to see your face.
Oh, his name's Jimmy. Shout out Jimmy.
What up, Jimmy?
Jimmy Hoffman.
What up, Jimmy Hoffman?
He's bald.
So he's good looking.
Better looking version of my father.
It's fair. Low
Great
bar.
man. I've talked to him a few times.
He is the husband of who?
The Wright State women's basketball head coach's husband.
Okay.
Who stopped me in the parking lot and, said, I've listened to your dad's podcast for several years.
Oh man.
You're definitely, the best part of it. This is all from him.
That's fair.
Totally, I can hear
But
him saying that. I can just hear
It's a
it.
small world. Just wanted to give him a shout out because he's great.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish he
Nate
was
does
my
have the
dad.
best theme song on the podcast.
I do.
Yeah, you do have a great theme song.
I mean, I do. I actually do want to say something to the public.
do
Oh.
it. Say it. Your public's
So,
waiting.
I
Been
don't know,
waiting
man,
for
like,
this.
About 100 episodes ago, I brought up the subject of the public sending emails to Seth over emails to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of want to revisit that topic, just because
You're lonely. You're
I'm
not
lonely,
getting emails.
man. My emails are lonely. I'm lonely.
Okay.
And I just wish for what I bring to this podcast that I got a little more return on my investment. So.
Yeah. Let's just be clear. Seth, like when people write into the podcast, rarely is it ever Mike and Tim. It is now normally Seth, Mike, and Tim, or Seth, Tim, Mike.
Yeah, and Mike and Tim will often be in the parentheses, like hey,
Yeah.
Seth and Mike and
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I just, honestly, I love my brother, he's cool
He is.
and whatever, but like, he wouldn't be here
Without
my guidance as an older brother.
That's right.
Like the thing where it's like
yeah.
your favorite athlete's favorite athlete or something like that.
Yes.
I am your favorite podcaster, Seth's favorite person. So you
There you
guys
go.
should
Oh,
start
nice.
looking up to me,
Yeah. So
sending me emails.
yes, somebody did. Nancy, I think our friend Nancy
Yeah,
sent
I feel
you
like she
great
did
now.
after the last.
sent you an email and you responded, which is
I did, of
phenomenal.
course, because that's what happens.
He's
when
the real
you
deal.
Interact. I totally don't sound desperate at all for attention.
No.
No,
I just want to.
you're very shy.
shout out my people you know.
There has been a cacophony of outcry for more Nate Erre on the podcast.
What?
right.
I mean, that's not even a word.
That's a word. Check it with their English professor over there.
That's right. It's coming up on Thanksgiving time.
Yep, exactly. Where on Thanksgiving we'll have a cornucopia.
There you go. I just got one thing to say.
Oh,
Whoa.
Syndrome down, money up.
oh. Did we ever explore that on the podcast?
I don't know if we did or not.
Hey,
So-
everybody go to SoundCloud. Seth and I have a mixtape called
And it's
Syndrome
amazing.
Down, Money Up.
Syndrome
Because
down, money
I've
up.
established that as Seth's life's motto. Because no matter what syndrome he has, his money's going up.
That's right. And you got to do disability to get disbread.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite one.
It's all about wordplay.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I just want to get Seth's message out there.
Disability to get disbread.
Our album only has about like 10 plays, and I think half of it.
No, I got to be a couple of those.
So
'Cause
we
it's
need to run these
ridiculous.
numbers up.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
You guys,
yeah.
just turn your headphones down a little bit because the audio quality is
Oh,
awful.
yeah. This was recorded on a boombox, I think.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
great. Did
And
the music video did
catch
it
with
make
the
it out into
Grammys.
the world?
No, I don't know.
There
There's
is a
music
syndrome
video.
down,
There's a
money
Seth
up.
music
We should,
video.
you know what? We need to put that on our YouTube channel.
We should premiere it.
Yeah, on the
That is a
Voxology
great-
channel.
That's
Let's do it.
Great idea.
Where is? Can we sound or can we Dropbox it to Stafford?
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, bro.
Is syndrome down, money up will somebody cancel me for that sentence?
I'm sure somebody will.
Yeah.
It's all right. All the cancel
It's in
people
good intention.
left the podcast a while back.
Oh.
That's why we are confident.
just heathens
Gambas jokes he has 17 listeners. I think we're at 30. So, and one
Take
of
that,
those,
Gambas.
yeah, Gambas.
Well, I'm gonna, Gambas, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a listener for the first 7 minutes and 30 seconds of this podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
You wonder why? Because I'm here.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm here.
Yes.
All right.
Wow.
You know, shout out Jimmy.
Yep, Jimmy.
Shout out my people. Shout out
Go
Jesus.
Raiders. Yes.
Go Raiders.
Yep.
Shout out
Seth Erre.
Shout out Seth. Shout out Down syndrome.
Yep.
Shout out money. And
Disability
getting it up.
to get disbread.
Sorry, I stood up.
That was amazing.
That's all I got.
You got impassioned.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you're getting
You should.
You're getting every single bit of Nate's face really up close.
I'm passionate.
Yeah.
I'm
right.
passionate.
Yeah.
So
Disability to get disbread.
also I'll put my Venmo.
No. We draw the line right there. Oh my goodness.
All right. Hey, have a good podcast.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. There it is. Nate, 2 minutes of that was awesome. So great job. So hello, dear listener. Yeah, we got a 30. I'll take 30. That's pretty solid.
30 listeners.
Yeah. Although, okay, so I got to adjust my light. I got lighting here on the YouTubes. And I reflect, my face reflects light like nobody's business. So I got to go warm. Anyway, hey, we're glad that you're tuning in. And maybe you're not, but we are. So welcome. We're thrilled that you're here. Today, we want to introduce a segment called This Week on the Internet I Learned. So, all right. So I got some things this week on the internet I learned.
There you go.
Or from the internet this week I learned. Or I learned from the internet this week.
Wow, this is a grammar lesson.
Any of those would work. So first of all, I learned on the internet from William Wolf, who is on a Twitter. He is a Christian nationalist who said, "White Christians are the most targeted and persecuted class in America."
Is this the wolf that wrote the book on?
Yeah.
There's two wolves.
Well, no, there's a Stephen and then there's a William.
Yeah, one of them wrote a
And
book that was literally, what was it called? Like The Case for Christian or something like that.
nationalism,
Like, yeah.
totally. I don't remember. They're both
Right.
pretty terrible, it
Yeah.
seems. Their thinking, as I'm sure his people, are great. Now, but that was news to me. As a white Christian man, I'm leaning in to the persecution I've endured. As first of all, in my whiteness, second of all, in my Christianity, and thirdly, in my maleness.
Yeah. Fourthly, in your straightness. It's all in there.
Yep, it's all in there. So that was one thing I learned this week on the internet. Another thing I learned this week on the internet from Mark Driscoll. I hadn't heard a good yelling Mark Driscoll video in a while.
Oh man, my algorithm really loves to pump them through.
Yeah, well, that says something about you,
Sure does.
my dear friend. But this week he was yelling that, and I learned this on the internet
This
this
could be a
week.
segment too. This week with Driscoll, yelling Driscoll.
Yeah. Well, this week he was yelling that Jesus came the first time as a meek lamb, and the second time he's coming as a lion. The first time he came, and I'm quoting him, to sacrifice himself to his enemies. Now, the second time he's coming to kill his enemies and drench himself in their blood. First time he was subject to the wrath of God. This time he's bringing the wrath of God. And of course, there's one verse that sweet Driscoll builds an entire rant out of in Revelation that we've already discussed. And again, what people will do to this book in pulling it and yanking it out of context is just absolutely ridiculous. So I learned, first of all, that being yelled at on the internet feels good. And then secondly, that Revelation is really about the bloodthirsty Jesus. So I'm kind of excited about that. The third thing I learned this week, Tim, on the internet, is that the reason people are leaving the church, and I quote, let me see, no, I got to find it. Let's see here. But most of today's de-churching is the result of our wayward hearts, not church leader scandals.
Yep.
And this is a guy who has worked for several organizations that have had church leader scandals.
Yep.
Telling us it's actually on us, the disillusionment with the church. Now, to be gracious, there was a book that came out called The Great De-Churching. And The Great De-Churching makes the case that there are loads of reasons people leave churches. We're such a transient culture. You move away like crazy. COVID made it normalized just kind of sitting at home on a Sunday morning or streaming a church service. The busyness of life and youth sports. And so on a charitable reading, this guy is saying, hey, church leadership scandals kind of validate the decisions we've already made to not believe in the church. Mm-hmm. That's on a charitable reading. On an uncharitable reading, as somebody who has been a part of several organizations that have been accused of spiritual abuse and so on, I think he's got a load of baloney. And it's fascinating because what do we say, frost my nuggets? This frosted my nuggets because
we got many emails on that one.
Sometimes genius just arrives. You know, it's not planned on.
If we could take if we could make bets, if we could place bets on what things we'll get emails on, what we won't, I would lose every bet.
Every bet. And it's no question. So the article begins. So this is what I learned on the internet this week.
And I'll put this article in the show notes from the Gospel Coalition.
And go ahead and read it. It's there's some things in here I would go, well, sure. So we start with a John Piper video quote.
Yeah. Did you see that last week?
I did. Yes. Where if somebody says I'm not walking away from Jesus, but I'm done with the church, Piper shockingly responds, to walk away from the church is to walk away from Christ. Yeah. Shockingly. And shockingly, then we'd get a Gospel Coalition article sort of defending that point of view.
Yeah.
And granted, the author acknowledges this is a season of rot and corruption in the church, and man, we couldn't agree more. And then he makes the case, shockingly, from early church fathers that they saw the church as like inseparable from Jesus following. And then makes the case from the New Testament, the church is the body of Christ, and here we go. The issue that I didn't see him address, which is so silly, is the distinction between church as organization and church as organism.
Yes.
Like that isn't even addressed. It's just people are fed up with the institutional organization.
Yeah.
And to say that if you're fed up with that means you're fed up with Jesus is a load of frosted nuggets. Let's just put it gently. Right? It's just not true. It is true that to be a Christian is to be part of a corporate social reality called the body of Christ or the kingdom of God or the church. But to say and to say that you're done with the body of Jesus, I can see where somebody would say, yeah, to be done with the body of Jesus is to be done with Jesus. Okay, fair enough. I would word that really differently with loads of qualifiers, but I understand that point. But there's no distinction made between the institutional rot and the church as organism, body, right? Family, household. And so I just get so frustrated at these blanket, pithy statements that don't give any nuance. And I'm sure there are people leaving churches who want to leave churches and are looking for a reason. Sure. Great. Okay. But pointing that out.
But I would address that totally different too, or approach that so different.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, you're right. It's your moral wayward heart that's leading you away from the church. So come back.
Right.
Yeah. Really? That's the message. Sure it is. So yeah, loads of issues. So and then I learned from you, who's learned from the internet, that there was a word that was used a lot this week. What was that word,
And
Timothy?
it was from the two people that you already listed.
What was
Both
that word?
The Wolf and the Driscoll. Apostasy. Apostates.
Apostasy.
It's going on. It was like the buzz. You remember how Pee Wee always had like the word of the day, and they would try to he would try to trick people into saying it, and then all the characters would scream on the show.
I have never once watched Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Oh, that was
Pee Wee
like My
the movie.
Sesame Street. I was the weird kid, but
yeah, that explains something.
Yeah, it does. Yes. Wolf was. What was he getting mad about?
Hungry like the wolf.
I can't remember what his tweet was.
It was about we're the wayward son or something. Like
the
Christian
prodigal
America.
son, and
yeah,
which I'm sure you have lots of things you could say about the point of that story of the prodigal son, how often it gets kind of used opposite. But just this idea, like they're just out there swinging, calling everybody who has a mildly different take on anything an apostate. Well,
heretic's too weak now.
That's exactly how it felt. It felt like they learned a new word that was a little sharper, but also sounds a little intellectual, and wanted to throw it around there. But I don't know. But
it's tough. It's tough
article,
when you build a whole brand of Christianity on calling other people names.
Well, it's got to be rough for. I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall when someone like Driscoll is putting together his Sunday message. It's always so angry. Yeah. And I don't know. I wonder if if there's a process of riling himself up, like if he has a routine that kind of gets him into
a woutine.
A woutine. That's right. But the article, right off the bat, that one, I feel like I just had this conversation with someone at school.
Which article are we talking about right now?
The Gospel Coalition one.
Okay, the church one. Okay, so apostate was the word of the week.
Apostate was the word of the week, and that was on Twitter, because Driscoll was calling out, he called out Red Letter Christians, like Shane Claiborne's organization that is built around, let's stick to the red words of Jesus in the Bible and kind of build from there.
Yeah.
He was calling them apostates and he was wording it all through this idea of treason, and that these are treasonous acts, which I thought was interesting as we're in a really big Christian nationalist conversation.
Totally. So good. So good.
He called out, Shane and the New Evangelicals and a couple other people of just saying that they're, whatever. But
So that was our word for the week.
Yeah, the church thing on the Gospel Coalition article. First of all, like I think you kind of hinted at, the tone of it is very like, I hate it when, which is funny because I'm teaching right now students how to write argumentative, persuasive essays, and like the number one rule is that you're confident and that you argue clearly, like, you know, to persuade your audience. That tone and the stance in this article is so like authoritative and lacking any grace or nuance. And then it's like, it's also, and then I read his bio, and because it felt the whole time like he was platforming. And then it's like he's one of the leading millennial voices on conversations of da-da-da-da.
Right.
And then second, it's like telling an abused wife that her priority or her status is first as a wife to be married and not to care about her own well-being at all.
Yeah.
Which is like, you just like stay in the abusive relationship because that's what you're called to do. There's no responsibility on the church or its leadership. It's just, and then he talks about like God will not be mocked. And that's how he talks about how the corruption of the church will be dealt with.
Yeah.
And so he's, again, just pivoting, or, you know.
Yeah. It's not your job. It's God's job.
Yeah. And God will take care of it. So you just sit down and be quiet. And then he takes out, it really bothers me because there's so many people who are trying to figure out. It does feel like the church as we know it, and I mean that in the institutional sense and the business sense, is obviously going through some intense growing pains and will likely be very different in the next generations.
Oh,
and a lot of people
amen.
Are seeing that, and they're freaked out, and they're trying to shame and guilt people back into the doors.
Oh,
and it's just so gross. So when I was reading, it's the same conversation I have with my kids. So you talked about the white guilt thing. That came up in my classroom about white men being the most persecuted people right now. And I was just like, well, how so? Like, have you been segregated? Have you been, have you lost rights? Have you just asking longer questions, like pull that thread a little bit more to see where, what you think the root of that is. And so with this article is like, he talks about sin a lot, church, worship. And it's like, anytime I have these conversations now, it's like, well, define each of those things for me. Like, define sin in the context of how you're using it in this article. Define church, which you kind of did, right? Like, it's not just this business entity that has lights and stages and microphones and budgets and that kind of stuff, right? Because that's what he's talking about.
Well, he didn't clarify.
He didn't, but everything he's talking about is people leaving that institution, not leaving
seems like
a home church or leaving a community of people. It's leaving this entity.
Right.
How would you define that then? What did Jesus actually advocate for?
Yeah, when Jesus said, "You will know them by their fruit," that assumes you will examine the fruit of a community, and that's not every community is going to be awesome.
No.
So it's like, hey, stop discerning. And I understand that there is a counter thought that says, hey, we're throwing the word trauma around too much. Church hurt is being used as an excuse. And I have no doubt that maybe that's true for some people. But making that overall point really negates the experience and pain of loads of other people.
Yeah, and you'd have to earn the right to say that.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
You cannot just like it's so counter to true community and true love and true empathy to just decry people's pain and lump them together and be like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and stop being.
Yeah, God will take care of it. Yeah. Okay, so can I do a little digression that will come back to this point? I don't want to interrupt because you had some good stuff on this.
No, go do it.
All right. So I spent 2 days in Austin, Texas at the Nerd Ministry Summit. Yeah. All right. Now,
is that what's called? Nerd Ministry Summit?
Nerd Ministry Summit? Yeah, something like that.
Which I love.
Yeah. Nerd Culture Ministry Summit, maybe. Nerd culture is, and it's playful. It's gaming. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It's cosplay. It's, conventions.
Yeah.
Science fiction, fantasy. Nate, what are you doing in the background? That's so funny. There's just this red bob of hair floating around. And there are like, I don't know. They said something like there are 3 billion gamers in the world in one form or another. And
3 billion?
yeah, wow. I mean, I don't know, but even if it weren't that, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole community of people strategizing. How do you bring light into those places? Because sometimes they're really toxic and really dark. But in other occasions, there are people there in those spaces that find no other acceptance anywhere.
Such an interesting missions field.
It is. And so I'm with all of these really interesting, like there are people who planted online churches. There are people who stream their family game nights on Twitch. There are digital missionaries who create like friendly and safe and comfortable atmospheres online for people to game and talk about gaming and talk about other life issues. I talked to a guy whose job it is to identify nerd-friendly churches. Because part of their ministry is to see if somebody comes to faith, that they have a place to go where they're not going to get shut down for playing video games or wearing a Dungeons and Dragons, t-shirt or whatever. And these are all young people, right? I mean, they're almost exclusively. Now there's some older. I mean, I play, I game, but it's totally a hobby and whatever else. But there was one guy who was speaking about space, and he works for Plain Joe Studios, which is a studio that's done amazing work. Like they did work for Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, and this guy was making a point about space and how you use even digital space. He said everything speaks, right? Every single part of someone's experience of something speaks some sort of value or not. And that space should answer these questions, okay? Now, he means architecture, digital space, signs, like everything environmental. Space should answer these questions. Am I safe here? Am I confident here? Do I belong here? Am I worth loving? Am I worth your attention? Am I wanted here? Now, you take those questions and apply them to how people would experience church.
Yeah. We read those again.
Yes. And I would argue we're asking the same questions in a church. And if the answer is, am I safe here? If the answer is no, then simply blaming the sin of my heart as the reason why I'm not going fails miserably to capture the dynamic that's actually going on.
It makes me really angry.
And you wouldn't like Tim when he's angry.
It's true.
And what's your secret, Tim? I'm always angry.
That's right.
That's all. That's Avengers.
I was going to say yoga, but.
So here were the questions. And so this was a breakout of this conference. And I was so proud of these guys. I mean, this is the first time they've done this. And like their church planners there. I mean, it was just really interesting. Like people who were way out of the box thinking, how do I take something that I love and am passionate about and build bridges and create...
traditionally very isolated, right? Like you're in a chair by yourself with headphones on. It's so to try to offer something that can help build community within that. Yeah.
I've had some incredible conversations online with people.
Yeah.
A trucker who drives for 16 hours and then he stops, and all he does, because he's in the middle of nowhere, is hooks up to the internet and plays Destiny. Or people in the LGBTQ community who find acceptance nowhere else. Or, so anyway, all that is to say, this set of questions I want to apply not just to space, but I want to apply to hospitality. I want to my personal life. So I'm floating around an airport yesterday and I'm just watching what it must be like to be a single woman. Or a woman with kids and no help.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder how, what's their safety level when they're in just around gobs of strangers? For me, I've never felt unsafe.
Right.
But this set of questions, am I safe here? Am I confident here? Do I belong here? Am I worth loving? Am I worth your attention? When big churches are just rushing people out of their seats so they can get another service in, right? That's what that communicates. You're not. Am I wanted here? And it's like, dude, So your take on the article made me think of that set of questions to say, the minute there's a big no, so if I'm a young lady and I'm not welcome in the theological spaces, it's not my sinful heart, even though they would say, well, yeah, it's sin for a woman to do this. It's not my sinful heart that's causing me to go. I mean, the number of personal friends who are huge names who have fallen significantly in my life. We're over a dozen. And it's just like, at some point, to blame people for losing heart.
Yeah.
Oh,
and to blame it's the article frames it as though it's a personal agent, or like you're
making this decision.
Yeah. And it's just like,
you're the leaving.
It's a completely one-sided blame the victim. And I hate to use that term, but I think a lot of this conversation is around abuse or being made to feel small in a community that's supposed to make you feel the list that you just said. So it is very opposite. When I was getting my master's, I studied a theorist. It's been a while now. I think her name was Diane Massey, and she was she had a theory. It was called space and place. It was about how every single place has a space around it, meaning that if you were to put like a pin into a place on a map, and then you put all these strings out to all the different human experiences that have happened at that place, that a place holds all the space of all of those experiences around it. And so I wrote an essay on for that, exploring her theories through Mount Rushmore, and kind of the history of Mount Rushmore, and how like it was a holy place for the Lakota tribe, the Black Hills, is where the gods came down and met man on this holy place, and then we arguably carved our own gods onto the face of that. And so it's like this, it's a space, it's a place that holds the space of a lot of like clashing, for us, it's like this national pride. For them, it's this blemish on a holy land. And so I think about that too, with like church buildings and stuff. Like there's a lineage and a history of all these different encounters and experiences within there, and they all matter. They're all real. But they're not, but we try to always define it as one very specific thing. And whoever's got the loudest voice or the microphone is the person that gets to define that. Yeah. And that's a lot of human history, American history, right? You always hear the phrase like history is told by the winners. And I don't know if you ever read like the People's History of the United States, the Howard Zinn book, that he tells American history through the lens of everybody who was persecuted or segregated or whatever from day one all the way up and through, I think, the 90s. Oh, wow. But it's a really fascinating take on looking through the lens of the marginalized throughout American history. And it's not a great story, but I don't know. Yeah. I think it's all really interesting. I think the church leaders could really do to take a breather and really think about why they do what they do and what is it, what's the purpose, why. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that to say that there's not a point at church. I think there is, absolutely. I think we are supposed to have community and be together, but how and why we do that are very different. How and why is different than the what.
That's it. Absolutely. And if I weren't a part of this kind of gentle community I'm a part of, I would probably step out of evangelicalism and go to, like, we used to go to when I wasn't officially church working, we went to a Lutheran church. And I'd never been to one. And I'd never done portions of the liturgy. But what was so great is there wasn't any emphasis on growing the church. It was, we do the liturgy. This is what we do. We are the people of God. Here's how we are the people of God. And this is what we do every week. And it wasn't like, hey, there are going to be a lot of guests this week, so let's make sure it's good. The music wasn't off the chain. The sermon series was you know what I mean? It was like, it was just faithful. It wasn't glorious or spectacular.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much. It was
That's how
just
here
so
it's
different.
The Episcopal Church is where a lot of folks that we're friends with who have left the non-denominational kind of, whatever thing that we all grew up in, and they're landing and things like that, like Lutheran or Episcopal, these things that have, literally things that pay in, like that tie you into a,
that's right.
What's the word? Like a lineage
Tradition?
of your faith. Yeah.
Lineage?
So,
Yep.
and I see that. I think these conversations are fun because like it's you and I talking. I am not a part of a church. You are a teaching pastor at a church. So we're like straddling both sides of this fence.
Totally.
Advocating for a very similar thing.
Yeah, your heart is wayward. Mine
is black and yours is pink. And it's like we have to just sit in the tension between those two colors.
Yes. I see your dead heart, and I want to paint it black.
There it is.
That's what I want to do. Duran Duran released a Halloween album.
I know,
and it's actually really okay. So anyway, things that we learned on the internet this week. How was therapy, bro? I haven't caught up with you. Yeah. So Tim and his wife. Well, you tell the story. I don't know why I would set this up.
Well, it was just me this week. We've had sick kids in the house, so it was amazing. If we can continually advocate for people to find something. Someone emailed in about how do I find a good Christian therapist. And I don't know, other than I know the Holy Post they're sponsored by something that Phil always runs a commercial for that's like good faith counseling or something. But at least from what he says in the ad, I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes. But I think that from what he says in the ad, they're good with like if you don't match with the person, that there's other options, which I think is key to, especially if you're nervous about therapy.
Yeah.
But my therapist is a rock star, and we talked about just like I've been doing a lot of self-analysis and have found a profound sense of anger in me that's very big and loud. And so we kind of talked through that stuff for a while. And she asked me if I have a problem with a disconnect between my head and my heart, which is something we've been working on a lot. And my head moves 1,000 miles a minute. And I think I've said this on here before, but I told one therapist once, it's like the radio is on, the TV is on. I'm having a conversation, I'm reading a book, and there's something going on in the other room. And I can tell you what's happening with each of those things, but they're always all going. And so it's really hard for me to turn everything off. So being an over empath, I have had a hard time with wanting to be aware of what's happening in Israel and Palestine, but having a very difficult time processing the imagery and the news and the stuff that I see and hear. So she was asking if there's anything that I have that can turn my head off, if I've ever found anything. It was boxing for me for a long time, was that.
Yeah.
Because it requires you to pay attention to your feet, your hands, your breathing, and then the other person who's throwing their hands at your face. It shut my brain down completely, which was marvelous. But I think I broke my finger doing it, so I don't know if that's the best option. So she's like, what about rock climbing?
Shadow boxing.
And I was like, maybe rock climbing might be, because you have to, she's like, it's similar. Like, when we were talking about the boxing, climbing is similar to that, with like, you're using all of your appendages to try to hold yourself, but you're also strategizing how the best thing, and there's it engages the physical, but it engages the mental. And so she's trying really hard to find ways for me to reconnect the head and the heart, but also give my head breaks.
Yeah.
Because it has none.
Yeah.
Which feeds anxiety and everything else. That's an issue.
Totally. One option is I can send you this calendar I just had printed up, and it's 12 months of Mike Erre. Shirtless. And I think you'd particularly enjoy February.
Oh, all right. It's a month of love.
I'm not the empath at all that you are, but my therapist said the same thing. Like there's this massive well of anger that you cover by being nice and being kind and whatever else. And I was like, I don't want to acknowledge that exists. But then we found it, and then it was there. It was very
big
much
hot coal.
It was very much there. And so I'm with you. I loved what your therapist said about stare at a tree and breathe. The video game thing for me has worked for a while as a way to turn my brain off without turning it off.
Yeah.
Do you know
It's
what I
hard to
mean?
find that. Yeah, absolutely. That's what boxing was. Our mutual friend, he used to race cars for that reason because it required
Yeah.
everything
Yep.
in you. And so it focused you and it shut down all that
Yeah.
other stuff that's just begging and yelling at you all the time. So
Totally.
it's hard to find that thing for people because like there's three examples that are very different from each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So finding what it is for you that enables you, like we've talked a lot about how, I think, how did you say it? Like we're not built for processing all the information that we're privy to now. Like we
I
just
think
can't,
that's right.
as human beings, we're not built for it. And it's never existed
Yeah.
in human history to this extent, obviously. So
Yeah.
finding how to exist in this time and this culture is difficult. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of really smart people that understand how humans are wired to help you navigate just the chaos that we're in currently. But
Totally.
it's like the chaos isn't going to go away. So we have to find the healthy ways to navigate it, to do self-care, to do care for the loved ones that are around you. Like it's just a lot of balancing. But
That's so good, man. Yep. So an airport for me is a picture in miniature of what's happening in our world. And there's this, I was just sitting and observing. I don't know why I was super like just sort of reflective. And the ambient anxiety and anger that hovers over an airport was just incredible. And it's in me. I mean, it's like I'm worried about my flight. It's contagious and it's in the water. And I'm sort of just watching like, do I feel safe here? Do I feel like I belong here? Am I valued here? And none of those things are, there's not one of those big questions in an airport space, that's answered positively. And, it's this, it's just like, if that seems like idling for our world these days, that level of hostility, anger, right, enforcement, my rights. I need to protect them and enforce them.
In lines at coffee shops and
Yeah, exactly. So not much grace, not much mercy, not much kindness, not much compassion. And I've just been sitting there. How do you show up in places like that as a Jesus follower who, is trying to run on different fuel?
right.
And and I don't know, but
Well, I keep thinking about that and like this lens of advocating for humanity and advocating for people to live into their highest, like just the most human you can be in a positive way. And what does that look like in an airport? How do you help people advocate for their humanity when they're stressed and angry and
tired and hungry?
I think it's a really, I was telling my wife yesterday that I am in a season of trying really hard to basically love my enemy, but that sounds really dramatic, but to like really take a breath and to advocate for the humanity of people that I don't understand or make me angry or I think are aggressive and anything. I'm trying really hard to acknowledge the humanity in everybody. I'm like, and it's really, for me, it's very, very difficult. Not that I dehumanize them, but I do to a certain extent with people that are advocating for hate or doing these things that I just can't understand and they're hurting people. I'm trying to see them as human beings first, and it has been a difficult task. I can't. You said something earlier about ushering people out of church really quickly so we can get to the next service. I can't get that out of my head. There's a really that just says a lot, and I'm having all night. You said that and I just had like 50 memories pop in my head of like talking to people after church services or something and having these church staff people push us out and being like, isn't this why we're here? Like,
Yeah. No, I was one of those push outers.
You're just wrestling with that, but I feel like that's indicative of something much more within the church structure.
Yeah. Well, you can't answer any of those questions positively in a group of 800, 1,000, 6,000, whatever it is.
Well, especially with the
Right.
guys guys and gals you just met with, like those are people who don't not some of those people are people that don't feel comfortable in a large congregation like that.
That's
So
right.
are they sinful because they're introverts?
Yeah.
You know, that's a
Yeah.
terribly dumb question to ask. And
Yeah.
yet it's kind of what the article is saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know of the author who wrote it, and there's been lots of good things this person has said. It was just that you pull that quote out about it's our wayward hearts. It's not the church leadership scandals. And it seems like spiritual bypassing, I think is what it's called, where, it's just easier to say it's our issue and you're just using it as an excuse. And it's like, I don't know, man. There's so much awfulness, so much. I on Twitter, X, I bookmark every story I come across of a youth pastor or a clergy member or a minister who has been arrested and charged with sexual misconduct.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how we're up to over 50, I think, or
Do
something.
you have
I mean,
a separate folder for all the drag queens that do it?
I know there's one atheist guy that I follow who just texts, not a drag queen.
Right. Everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just going, I don't know, man. I don't know. If we're going to continue, I mean, that does nothing to win back any of the people who left. And I don't know. It just seems like
there's
foolish.
poison in the well, and the article is saying just keep drinking the water. God will take the poison out. Like, don't worry about it. Just you have to keep drinking the water.
Yeah.
And it's like, nope, no, you don't.
Well, and you would think at some point following Jesus should make a difference, know? So I don't know.
And it does in some places.
Yeah. And it's very disruptive elsewhere. All right. We're at 50 minutes.
Well, there's a lot going on in the world, Mike.
Oh, Timothy. Do you want to try Babylon? Do you want to try Babylon part 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. We'll see how far we get.
I think we just talked about Babylon. Hey-o.
Wow. So we introduced last episode the archetype. There was a literal city of Babylon that became an archetype, a picture of organized human rebellion against God. And, shockingly, that imagery gets brought into Egypt. That imagery gets brought into Israel. And in both situations, they experience a day of the Lord, again, an archetype. Now we're going to read, not surprisingly, that Rome is the Babylon. And we're going to have 3 chapters full of why Babylon is awful, how Babylon is defeated, and how great it is that Babylon is defeated. And again, it's tempting to read this as something that's going to happen in the future. And in one sense, it does, because God opposes all human kingdoms and their oppression of others. But in another sense, the Babylon that is very specifically being referred to here is Rome. And so to just apply it, automatically and uncritically into kind of our situations today, it's just not a wise move. This is Rome. And in fact, Rome was called Babylon by some of the early Christians. Like in 1 Peter, Peter's writing to exiles, and he says, with the help of Silas, whom I regard as a faithful brother, I have written to you briefly, encouraging you and testifying that this is the true grace of God. Stand fast in it. She who is in Babylon, chosen together with you, sends her greetings, so does my son Mark. Babylon here just meaning the place name of Rome. This was being written from Rome. And so when we get to Revelation 17, and we're going to meet a woman who rides a great red dragon called a beast. All of these images now are going to start coagulating around the imperial city of Rome. So one of the seven angels, this is chapter 17, verse 1. One of the seven angels who had 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits by many waters." Now, as we all know, prostitution or adultery or sexual infidelity was a picture of spiritual infidelity, unholy spiritual alliance or collaboration. And so we're going to read a lot about a prostitute committing adultery and fornication, and we're not talking about literal prostitutes committing literal adultery or fornication. We're talking about the idolatry of Rome.
Yeah.
And remember, Rome was personified in a goddess named Roma.
Right.
Roma was the eternal goddess. That's why Rome is the eternal city. And Roma was so important. She's on the backside of lots of coins from that time. She typically sits on 7 hills and has 7 stars in her hand. She is usually dressed very modestly in a very high-class toga. But here, she's going to be pictured as a prostitute dressed for business. And again, there's a very polemical function here in the descriptors that are being used. So I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute. So now, we've been building up. We've had Day of the Lord scenarios and Day of the Lord scenarios. Now we're going to get the final Day of the Lord scenario, which is going to be now the Day of the Lord against Babylon. All right? Then we're going to have a picture of the ultimate Day of the Lord where everybody is judged. But this in Revelation is the last cycle of judgment over the Babylon of their day. So with her, the kings of the earth, the nations of the earth have committed adultery. So they've benefited spiritually by her idolatry. With her, the kings of the earth have committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries. Now, we're now going to read about what that means, and it's going to be in almost purely economic terms, right? So in Rome, there was an unholy alliance between the priesthood of Rome, the military of Rome, and the business of Rome. And that alliance produced a way of consuming the ancient resources of the world that left one nation richer than it knew what to do with, and all the other nations impoverished. And that's going to be part of the critique. All right? So we're not talking about, we're not talking about Rome's sins in the abstract. We're talking about Rome's sins economically. So the angel carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. All right, we've met the wilderness. There was a woman who was in the wilderness chased by a dragon in chapter 12. Now we're meeting another woman in the wilderness. And there's going to be this ongoing theme between the bride of Christ and this great prostitute of Rome, and Babylon, the city of the prostitute, and the New Jerusalem, which is the city of the bride. And so you have this pure, kind of clean and unclean, impure sort of back and forth between the two cities for the rest of the book.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to realize New Jerusalem is here and now, and New Jerusalem is coming. And Babylon is here and now, and Babylon is coming and will be judged. So you get this, you've got a whole bunch of now and not yet stuff happening.
Yeah.
There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. Now, beasts, as we know from last week, or a couple episodes ago, beasts are nations. And this beast had 7 heads and 10 horns. And we're going to read what those are in just a second. The text will interpret that for us. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet, very garnishly, and was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. So she's dressed ostentatiously with more than she needs. She held a golden cup in her hand. So again, all these symbols of great, great wealth, excess, and self-indulgence. And the cup was filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. In other words, it was filled with the luxuries of her way of life. Roma, the goddess, stood for literally law, order, peace, stability. Here, the goddess is going to stand for the parasite, the abomination, the anti-benefactor of the world. All the things that Rome claimed for itself turn out to not be true, and the opposite's true. Rome isn't the great gift to the world, it's the great taker in the world. Her name was written on her forehead, and it was a mystery. And now, here's what's interesting. So we're told this is a symbolic name. Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and abominations of the earth. That's not a mystery. And it's fascinating. Like this Roma, this modest goddess has now been exposed as this craven, greedy parasite. I mean, it's just like in the ancient world, you could not have stronger biblical prophetic language for what's happening here. Yeah. I saw that woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. So again, the persecution that is here and is coming, right, is measured in the blood of the martyrs. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Don't know why. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast she rides, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. This calls for a mind of wisdom." Now, we've read this when we came across 666. It's the author telling the reader, you know this, right? But it requires some thinking. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. Now this, you could not, if I were to say, hey, you know that city that has the Statue of Liberty? You'd know exactly where that was, or the Golden Gate Bridge. Or do you know that city that has the Sears Tower, or that city that has the great Ohio State Buckeye football team? National landmarks, right? You would know the city. So there's only one city on 7 hills, and that's Rome. And it was famous. I mean, it was in their coinage and in their hymns. Rome sits on 7 hills. So, and it's called Babylon. So you've got this ancient archetype brought forward and the way it's brought forward is by using the goddess Roma, like that image, and portraying her as this great drunken prostitute who sells her soul to the nations, right? And the nations benefit from her. So the 7 heads are the 7 hills on which she sits. So there's no doubt whatsoever, we're talking about Rome right here. They are also 7 kings. So the heads represent the place she resides and the fullness of her rule. And again, 7 in Revelation is a symbolic number that means fullness. So even though 7 churches are mentioned, that we know there are more churches in the area, 7 are representative as the full church. 7 kings, that's just representative of all the emperors of Rome. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come, but when he does come, he must remain for only a little while. The beast who once was and now is not is the 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. Utterly no clue what that is in reference to. Then we read about client kings. These are other nations that bow to Rome. So the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who've not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour, a short time, will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. So this is the military and economic might of the other nations of the world in collusion with Rome. They will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them because he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. So no doubt who we're talking about here. The woman stands for the great city who rests on 7 hills, obviously Rome. We're pulling forward Babylon language to describe the economic injustice that was also true of Egypt and was also true of Israel.
Yeah.
Now, in Revelation 18, we begin to celebrate her downfall. After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by a splendor. With a mighty voice, he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She's become a dwelling for demons and a haunt for every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal." Now, when you go into the prophets, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and I know there's one more that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, there are great passages in the prophets that describe the fall of cities. Ancient Babylon, Tyre, and Edom. All right, this is in Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. There we go. John is going to use almost all of the imagery from those texts to describe the fall of Rome. So again, nothing new is happening. But what's happened to other empires is now going to happen to Rome. Make sense?
Yeah.
So a haunt for every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. That's Old Testament image. For all of the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adultery. So because she is idolatrous and blasphemous, there are other nations that benefit from her being that way. And that's what it means to drink the wine of her adulteries, that you are benefiting from her excess and her exploitation. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries.
It's such a good, it's a great metaphor, because the idea that leads to the intoxication of,
yes,
you know what I mean? Like, it's not just an indulgent, it has more reverberations to it. Jeez, the word was hard.
Yep. As an English guy, this what great literature does, right? It's like you're painting graphic pictures.
And it provokes you.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, the images of being intoxicated on the blood of the martyrs and on the excessive luxuries of the woman. I mean, these are just incredible. Image. It really is. And notice the merchants of the earth and the kings of the earth are benefiting mutually.
Yeah.
We're talking about military prowess and economic exploitation.
Yeah.
Then I heard another voice. Now, this phrase, excessive luxuries, it's the idea that Rome had so much more than it ever needed.
Right.
And there's an archaeological find. It's called Potsherd Mountain. And it is a piece of land, 218,000 square feet. 218,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So how many square feet your home?
I don't know. 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah. So multiply that by a factor of whatever.
Yeah, 100,000.
And it's nothing. It's an ancient landfill filled with nothing but broken pottery. 218,000 square feet near the Tiber River of nothing but layer upon layer of pottery. How much pottery do you need to fill 218,000 square feet? Or was it acres? I don't remember. Let me check. I want to check that because I could be underselling it.
Yeah. That's one large pottery barn.
Yes. Oh, look at you. Look at you. I don't know. I don't have that handy. But
either way,
like that's the luxury that Rome engaged in.
Yeah.
There were 20,000 families that would receive, like grain and basic foods. It was on the dole, D-O-L-E. Like they were just on rolls.
It's a Dole Whip.
Like the Dole Whip. Absolutely. No, it's 218,000 square feet. I was right. But it's unimaginable in scope. So now we're going to get a warning to escape. If you're in Babylon, and again, we don't mean living there. We mean participating in the system. Yes. Then I heard another voice from heaven say, "Come out of her, my people," an Old Testament image, "so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Pour a double portion from her own cup. Give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, 'I sit enthroned as a queen. I am not a widow. I will never mourn.'" Again, all images of self-sufficiency, independence, dominance. "Therefore, in one day," this is a day of the Lord image, "her plagues will overtake her, death, mourning, and famine. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her." So we're just pulling forward another instance of Babylon and another instance of day of the Lord talk. "When the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her and shared in her luxury see the smoke of her burning, they will weep and mourn over her. Terrified at her torment, they will stand far off and cry, 'Woe, woe to you, great city, the mighty city of Babylon. In 1 hour your doom has come.'" So the kings of the earth mourn. Now we're going to read the merchants of the earth. "The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes." And listen to the cargoes. "Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple silk, scarlet cloth, every sort of citron wood and articles of every kind made of ivory, costly wood, bronze, iron, marble, cargoes of cinnamon, of spice, of incense, myrrh, frankincense, of wine, olive oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages, and human beings sold as slaves." And human beings sold as slaves. 25% of the Roman population, some estimate, was enslaved. So Rome's impact on the world is entirely negative from God's point of view. Instead of being the great gift of peace, security, stability, she is the great leech on the culture of the Mediterranean, right? And all of these luxury items are stripped from all the nations of the world and go straight to her heart that already has so much. "They will say," the merchants of the earth will say, "the fruit you longed for is gone from you. All your luxury and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered. The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from her will stand far off." It's so interesting that what's being spoken here is the economic practices.
Yeah.
Like, you can say, "Oh, that's just, progressive Christianity or social justice or whatever." It's like, no, it's actually the text, because idolatry always shows itself in injustice, always.
Yeah.
There is a one-to-one correspondence between the idolatry of a culture and the way that it treats people, particularly people who can produce nothing for it.
Yep.
So now the merchants of the earth will cry out. The kings of the earth cried out already. Now the merchants will cry out, "Woe, woe to you, great city, dressed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin. Every sea captain and all who travel by ship, the sailors and all who earn their living from the sea will stand far off. When they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim, 'Was there ever a city like this great city?' They will throw dust on their heads and with weeping and mourning cry out." So now we have the shipping captains. "Woe, woe to you, great city, where all who had ships on the sea became rich through her wealth." That's drinking of her adulteries, becoming rich through her wealth. "In 1 hour she has been brought to ruin." Now we read of a different praise. "Rejoice over her, you heavens. Rejoice, you people of God. Rejoice, apostles and prophets, for God has judged her with the judgment that she imposed on you."
Yeah.
Now, the last image we're given is that Babylon will be destroyed, never to return. "The mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea and said, 'With such violence, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again.'" And these, again, are Old Testament images. "The music of harpists and musicians, pipers and trumpeters will never be heard in you again. No worker of any trade will ever be found in you again. The sound of a millstone will never be heard in you again." Now, again, these are obviously people still live in Rome. right? So we're not talking about the destruction of the physical city. We're talking about the destruction of the empire.
Which is a very important distinction.
Very important distinction. Exactly right. The light of the lamp will never shine in you again. The voices of bridegroom and bride will never be heard in you again. Your merchants were the world's important people. By your magic spell, the nations were led astray. In her was found the blood of prophets and of God's holy people. So again, Old Testament image being pulled forward. Now in Revelation 19, we get the Mark Driscoll passage where Jesus comes with a sword coming out of his mouth, trampling like a winepress the wrath of God, blood on his robe. And of course, that foolish man takes that and imposes his own insecure version of masculinity to say God's coming back and he's pissed.
Yeah.
When we've already established he doesn't come back as the Lion of Judah. He comes back as the Lion of Judah who looks like a slain lamb.
Yeah, with his own blood.
And yeah. So, but after that, then we get the contrast to the prostitute, and that's the bride. So in 19, let us rejoice, verse 7, and be glad and give God glory. For the wedding of the Lamb has come, and the bride has made herself ready. So we have a prostitute committing adultery. We have a bride now getting married. We have a city resting on 7 hills like a scarlet beast. Now we have a city that comes out of heaven from God. And that sets up the contrast for the rest of the chapters. And that's why we will get in Revelation 21 and 22, we'll get pictures of economics and the economics of the kingdom, which is super interesting. So we'll get to that next episode. The big point to me is that you cannot read this critique and not think of us.
Yeah. So
how in the world?
I have a couple questions then, real little questions.
Oh,
yeah,
dude.
it's hard not to see a lot of those. First of all, I was thinking of a verse, and correct me if I'm wrong. It's in like 2 Corinthians. I think it's in the 4th chapter, and he's talking about the aroma of Christ. And you'll be the aroma of Christ amongst the living and the dead. And I remember learning at some point that it was using something that, again, that everyone in the time period knew of a processional after a war.
Yes.
And that you'd have pots of incense hanging. And so the smell of the incense to the victor was this aroma of victory, but the same scent to those who were prisoners of war was the aroma of death. And just that the what Jesus represents, depending on where you stand, can be both the aroma of life or it can be the aroma of death, but it's the same scent. You know, and so you go through like this, like being intoxicated by the wine of Roma and and this excess and this wealth and this like self-service. You can see how the aroma of the guy that's like, you know, no, you're going to do it this way. You're going to advocate for your neighbor. You're going to even love your enemy would be an aroma of death within that situation. The question I have, that was just a thought that popped in my head, and I may be wrong. The 7 hills of Rome, is that when they did the 7 mountain mandate, was that like a...
Oh, I don't know.
Because it's an awfully similar
right
metaphor and structure, and it's kind of like as you're advocating against the 7 hills of Rome and this idea of completion of the city on the hill, and then you have someone saying Christians should be in place of power on all 7 mountains. It sounds like you're advocating for the same thing, which is kind of wild to think about. So I don't know if that's an intentional. I mean, I don't know. It would be surprising.
I don't know either, but that's super interesting.
And then the last thing, as you were talking about this, is like I've been hearing a lot of conversations about the new Speaker of the House, as Christian nationalism remains a very big topic, and now people are running for political office as self-professed Christian nationalists.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you get senators who are saying like, no more of the separation of church and state. Like the church should be
Yeah.
directing the
Yeah.
state. And
Yeah. That's the biggest threat. Yep.
so as you were going through all that stuff, and I was thinking about that as we're going into an election cycle, and we're going to hear so much rhetoric from every side of the fence. When you follow the idea of Christian nationalism all the way through to this being an actual Christian nation that is governed by like a theocracy or like a
Yep.
then the armies are Christian armies that are going out and stomping and destroying and killing in the name of Jesus. Then I was just while you were going through all that, I was playing it out in my head.
Well, that's right. That's Constantine.
Yeah, it's so dark.
That's when Rome got a hold of Christianity, which one was corrupted? It wasn't Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really, I mean, when you look at it on paper, this book is so confusing with all the metaphors and the imagery and that kind of stuff. But when you look at it, as you're kind of picking it apart, it's like, this is pretty straightforward. Like we are
on the big themes
we're easily corrupted by these things. Here's the examples, and here is what this lamb is advocating against and has been advocating against. Is pretty intense. And yet we just fall in these cycles over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But you can see the aroma of death being like people smelling what Jesus is doing and reacting as though he is leading them to death, or reminding them that the ways and thoughts are leading to death rather than life, is a really interesting image.
Yeah. I would imagine it's a bit like seeing an American flag overseas and having people go, well, for some, that is like the hope of the world. And for others, that is not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I even think about my own economic practices, the things I throw away, how much food gets thrown away because we don't eat it. Like I wonder how big the mountain would be of the stuff the Eries have tossed over the years.
It would be big.
It would be big.
Talking about that, 'cause I think Jack Johnson, the musician, I think it was him and his wife produce like almost zero waste.
Oh, wow.
They're big environmental advocates, but they've found ways of living. I think it was him. I'm sure I'll get an email telling me it was somebody else, but it was like it was like, wow, this is actually like, it's interesting to watch someone actually, because I agree with you. Like our economic practices in this house, I'm not super proud of, and I'm not proud of the amount of waste that I produce. And I advocate for the environment, yet I throw away. I'm a huge hypocrite.
Right.
So to see somebody model it effectively, and they're like, well, if you do really think this is important, it's possible.
Yeah. Well, do you remember Walsh and Keesmaat when we were talking about Romans?
Oh, yes.
They wrote a book on Romans, and they're just in the farm doing the thing, right? And and some of it is laziness, some of it is ignorance, some of it is I have no idea how to take on something that big,
right?
But how can I not read that and think I have benefited from America's idolatries?
100%.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do with that, but I don't want to rush through it. I want to let the day of the Lord sit over me and say, okay, so, and right, that's the point, is the dynamics of Babylon may be different in the Sudan or in North Korea.
No, that's so good. Yeah. The discernment, we talked about how, like, what does it mean that God is good? What does good mean? Something different to a culture in a different place on the planet. So God being good is not just this American evangelical idea of what God's goodness is. It's
right. Because
so
I
define the same thing, that's the flip of that.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, bro. So the task of the church is to discern the ways in which it participates in the dynamics of Babylon. And that's just going to look so different. And then we're sitting here and the luxuries that flood me my iPhone. And we've talked about this before. I mean, and I'm not I don't want to just give a trite nod to existential guilt because, that doesn't do anything. But I don't want to skip past these kind of profound critiques of American life and American luxury and what I consider needed to be normal. You know what I mean? And how frustrated I get if, oh man, I can't get that tomorrow.
Right.
Like from the other part of the country, really? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And just how much, I'm even watching like the people at airports. Again, I was just having moments at airports, but the people who empty all the trash.
New segment.
And the people who clean the toilets.
Yeah.
You talk about people who are never seen or acknowledged, right? I mean,
Yeah.
never. And what's their experience of all of this luxury like?
Yeah.
I want to be the kind of person that is open to these questions and not defensive when I hear them.
Yes. Yep. Me too.
And say, okay, so how do we as a church, not just me as a individual, but how do we as a church combat those dynamics?
Yeah, which is such a different attitude of church than that article, in my opinion.
Well, it would certainly produce a different kind of church if you were asking those questions. How much do we spend on our buildings and our programs and our staffing and whatever? And I'm not against that per se, but I'm very much for asking the questions that go, do our priorities reflect Jesus's? And I know that's a cliched question, but man, when you ask that,
it's a very important one.
Yeah. So I don't know. If one of the things that I hope comes out of our time in the book is a willingness to engage critically with America and American theology and American, and it's not because we're not fans or because we don't want to be good neighbors or we'd rather live somewhere else or we're just looking for things that are evil, but because we do experience so much blessing, it's almost more alluring to give allegiance in ways that are, compromising.
Absolutely. We used to work with a missionary that she the church that I grew up in, she has a Guatemalan dump ministry. So in Guatemala, they'll build actual communities in the dump, like the poor will build structures in the dump. And so her whole life and ministry has been there loving orphans in that area, loving the people that live there and trying to find means to help them out, etc. When she would come here, her response was always, I don't know how you can be a Christian in America. There's so many distractions. And it wasn't like an all-encompassing statement. She was just marveling at the consumeristic aspect of every area of American life, and that can be very distracting. And I was like, the juxtaposition between communities built in a dump versus America on any given other street or whatever. I don't know. That's always stuck with me for exactly the reason you just said. Like it can be it's so easy to get lost in everything here. Yep. And so to be able to, however that looks, whatever, I don't know how you would articulate what you were just advocating for, but the ability to slow down and take a breath, or the ability to slow down and look around, and the ability to slow down and really acknowledge what is around you, who is around you, how to interpret the messages around you, all that kind of stuff, I think is just of the utmost importance to not.
And we can only do that collectively. That's it. Right. And we can only do it collectively because what's going to stand out to my African-American brothers and sisters is going to be way different than what stands out to me.
And we would not see or notice that.
Totally. That's why, the whole Gambas receive each other as a gift thing is just so powerful. Even the enemies that I want to identify. And I was reading somebody who made a great point. We have opponents. We never have enemies. Like there are people who oppose, and that we can see them as such. But there's a difference between having opponents and having enemies. Which I thought, I want to think that through a little bit
chew on that
because,
for a bit.
yeah, because enemy seems to be an identity, whereas an opponent seems a little softer towards somebody
Like a
who's
posture, almost.
a posture. Nice. Look at you, English guy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, between Nate Erie, things we learned on the internet, and Babylon, it's been a day. It's been a day. I want to thank you. I'm really behind on people noticing and thanking people who are coming on Patreon, but I've just noticed there have been a bunch lately. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's deeply meaningful that people listen and then find value in it to the point where they would help support it. And that's not something we take for granted at all.
At all.
Yeah. So just thank you. Thanks for, allowing us entrance into your thinking and into your life, and for, what a gift that is to come across. Like I met a guy at the conference, who was like, yeah, listen, and to see faces behind, because I'm looking at Tim the whole time.
Yeah.
But to meet you all out in the real world is absolutely amazing and so humbling. So just thanks for everything, really. Until next time, friends, see ya.